Caitlin.
And I'm Kaylee, and this is Shoot the Vows.
And today we have a special guest. We have Eliza Jane with Eliza Jane Events, right? And could you give us a little introduction?
Yeah, I'm Eliza Jane. It's great to be here. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for coming on.
Of course. I own a wedding planning company. We're based out of Rochester, but we really service anywhere, wherever the couples are getting married is where we'll go. We offer full and both partial planning services. So.
Awesome. So today I wanted to talk about the invisible work that goes behind making like an effortless wedding day or a wedding experience.
Because we know it's not effortless and the's a lot that goes into it.
Right.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like it Instagram behind the scenes for sure.
Yeah, definitely not Pinterest worthy sometimes. So tell us a little bit about like some of the problems that you've had or you've run into in your years of planning.
Yeah, and some of this might be, if any of my clients are listening or past clients, now you're finding out what happened at your wedding. No, I think for us, especially as a planner, it's the job to like not let this be seen, right? So a lot of times, even when I'm in training with my staff, I'll say like, can you believe that this happened at this wedding? They're like, no, that wedding looked so perfect on Instagram. And that's why you hire a planner, right? Is to make sure that you don't have to worry about those things. One that comes to mind that I feel is a little bit of like cringing career moment for me where I was like, oh, this is rough. I had a partial client that built their own signage. So anytime we're doing a partial wedding, we might know less about it than a full service. So they had built these beautiful mirror signs, and there was 3 of them. There was 2 that had the seating chart, and then the middle one that had like initials and their date. They were stunning, they were beautiful, but they built them to just go in like chunks of wood, and it was a very thin mirror. And probably about this much of the mirror was actually like in the wood. So when we were setting up, the mirrors were in, it's a venue, it's the lake house. And so it has really heavy doors, and it kind of creates like a vacuum anytime that you open it. And so I'll never forget, we were setting up and we opened one of the doors and one just shattered, and it was in like a million pieces. Now, obviously you're thinking, okay, seating chart, we need that.
Yeah.
Right.
Now,
like,
luckily, they had a higher guest count. I think they were like 175. So I had encouraged them to do 2 of these mirrors. So we still had, it's not like it was split up. It was like the full seating chart on each.
Thank God.
So we had one and we had another one.
thank goodness for
Right.
backups.
Yes, for sure. And so we had that, which was really nice. But I had to figure out like how I was going to share that with the couple.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to share it before I sent her down the aisle.
Definitely
not.
not.
And then on top of it, like, a lot of my staff asked me, like, what would we have done if all 3 had shattered? And I always think, like, there's always a way, right? But you have to have someone in your corner to, like, figure that out. So if all 3 had shattered, then I would have, like, I have the Excel file. I would have done a same-day print from Staples for place cards. Or I would have made it more, like, very high-end and had clipboards as people were coming and checking them in and, like, taking them to their tables. It would have been a lot more work.
Yeah.
But, like, there would have been a way to fix it.
Like a
But it was
backup.
a nightmare. For
Yeah.
sure.
I could only imagine.
I think about this wedding. Thank God it wasn't me that did it. There was this beautiful cake, and on the way to the venue, apparently, whoever was transporting it, it had fallen twice.
Oh.
And they opened the box, and it's just like caved in on like half of the cake.
Oh, no.
And they put it up, and they like ended up, I can actually put a photo up for people that are watching the video. But we had to like put flowers like around the back of the cake to kind of hide it. And thank God the couple was so chill, because they didn't tell her until later, because she was like getting ready when the cake arrived, and they were like, we're gonna not tell her. And I was like, I probably would, but okay, you do your
Have
thing.
fun.
Was it family that was transporting it, or was it like the actual?
I think it was the cake person that like made it, or the caterer, one of the 2.
Wow.
And
I don't think I've ever heard this story.
they were, she was like, this is fine. At the end of the night, she's like, my wedding day was perfect, and I'm so glad. I'm like, well, yeah, except the cake.
Minus your cake. That was not perfect.
Just the cake.
She's like, it's fine.
I
So-
transported a wedding cake once, and I said never again. Like,
Yeah.
I do not like having heart palpitations. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna skip
I'm gonna
that.
just not.
Oh, and fun fact, wedding cakes can sweat. So, and they can also avalanche. So if you're getting married in a hot barn,
Yeah.
make sure your cake is in the refrigerator until right before it's served, or like there's minimal time where it's sitting out, because I've seen cakes. Whoosh.
Right.
So, yeah. What other problems do you kind of feel like you help mitigate as a planner?
I think that there's so many things that go on. Obviously, you have like the logistical, like a mirror shattering, right? I think that there's other situations that are happening besides that. So like family situations, I see this a lot, right? I think that there's a lot more mixed families nowadays. And so there's maybe divorce and there's a lot more elements to like when we put all these family members in the room, it might not be the case that like the parents are still married and they still get along and they might not want to stand next to each other for photos. I'm sure you guys see that a lot too.
I do get that, yeah.
And so I think that there's so many other pieces that people don't think about they're going to have to handle. I had a crazy one, but basically a couple was getting ready. And I knew as soon as I walked in the morning, because I usually get there right around like the hair and makeup timeline. And the bride came up to me and said like, the groom got arrested last night. And I was like, okay.
And he was like actively in jail, or
Like he wasn't.
Well, and so here's the funny part is
They
I
bailed
always
him
think
out?
like every season I'm like I've seen it all. No, I haven't.
You haven't.
Every season tests me like it's something
Yeah.
new. So he had been released, but like she hadn't talked to him. He didn't have his phone, and the first time they saw each other was at the first look. Yeah, that was kind of crazy.
that's very
would've-
romantic, though.
No,
great.
no, do not
I don't
give
know.
him that. Don't do it.
I'll tell you to this day, one of my favorite couples ever. So they worked it out. They just had a little too much fun the night before.
I think I don't know if mine's better or worse. So it wasn't my wedding. I was second shooting for another photographer, and the groom apparently didn't handle marijuana very well, and he had smoked right before he started getting ready. And from that point until 10 minutes before the ceremony, he was uncontrollably vomiting. And all through,
Oh my God.
all through their first looks, all through all their family portraits, this was all planned for before the ceremony. So we're just hanging out. There's only so much detail photos you can take. So we're like, at that point, we're like, there's nothing else to photograph. She went into the bathroom. So the first time she had seen him was him huddled over the toilet. And, I was like,
How romantic.
should we get photos of this first look, or should we?
No.
I opted not to, but I
Wish you would have.
She was so calm too. I would have been so angry. Because right? Like, you should.
Yeah, you know your tolerance.
Yeah. So that was bad. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that maybe can be mitigated by like us professionals. Like, we've seen a lot of these things, but something like that, obviously,
It's out of
it's
your
like it's up
hands.
to the couple.
Yeah.
Don't get arrested the night before your wedding.
Well, and I think like remembering like absolutely have fun at the welcome party and all those things, but just remember like the next morning you still are marrying the person that you love, and you want to show up as like your best self, So that's important.
You don't want to show up with a black eye from jail.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
So as a planner, you're doing a lot of vendor managing. So what does that kind of look like behind the scenes that the couples aren't seeing?
Yeah, so for us, I'll start with full service because I think that's a little bit more in line with it. So full service, we handle all of the communication, start to finish. So from initially researching a venue, right? We give them a venue guide. They get back to us with their top ones, and then we're setting up all of the back and forth. People don't realize how many emails go into this, right? And I hear this from couples, especially when they first get engaged. Oh, I can handle it, but I just need someone like closer to, I always love the comment, like, I just need someone. I just need someone to set up my entire wedding and like, handle it as we get closer. And I always think,
Right.
you're not thinking about like when you start planning and you realize you have to have 7 emails back and forth before you even go to contract with a vendor. And now times 10 vendors or,
And you got to relay all of that information now.
Right. And so I think for us, like we handle all of the back and forth before it gets to the couple. For example, like if something comes to me and I see that a date is wrong or a time is wrong, like I'm looking through their entire contract or I'm asking for clarification on something before I send it on. I also think it's a little protection for the vendors. Like I had a florist, this was early years, but I had a florist that sent me a credit card authorization to fill out for the client, and it had someone else's credit card information in there. Now, the client never saw that because it stopped me, but I went back to the vendor, and it was a protection to them of like, hey, you probably should have removed this before we send it. Can I get a blank version? But I think there's a lot of back and forth, but then even as we start to get into like checking availability, right? I think as we even saw this last year, you could do your wedding planning on a shortened time frame, but you might be getting a lot of no's when you're reaching out to people. And so for us, we can reach out, check availability on everybody, and then come back to you with, decisions. So there's a lot of communication that goes into it, kind of pre-wedding first.
So do you also kind of deal with like timeline aspects of things too, since you are handling the communication side of things?
Yeah, so we'll have a timeline meeting with our couples before we typically reach out to vendors, because I like to I find most frequently on the photographer's call, they'll start asking like right away, like, have you thought about what time you want your ceremony? It's not like they're looking for specifics.
Yeah.
Just an estimate.
But like, give me an idea.
As far as like how many hours of coverage they're going to want, you definitely need to know at least like, when are we getting there? When are we leaving?
Right.
Kind of thing.
And so I think that it's helpful for us because we have a timeline meeting beforehand. So we'll send them a timeline guide and kind of say like, what are you doing? I think something that people miss a lot, and I don't know if you feel this way, but family photos. Someone will send me a list, or in the beginning, I'll say, how many family photos do you have? And they're like, oh, probably just like 5. And then we get close to the wedding and they have a 25 family photo shot list. Mm-hmm. And I usually say like 2 minutes per combination. I don't know how you feel about that.
We say about the same.
Yeah. And
somebody's at the bar, somebody's like missing.
You know,
give yourself a buffer.
Nobody's ever where they're supposed to be.
No.
Yeah.
And so I feel like if we had 5 photos, which is going to take 10 minutes, if we have now 25 photos, then that's an hour. Like that totally changes your timeline around.
Yeah.
So I try to have those conversations beforehand just so that we can make sure, even too with shuttles, I think shuttles probably the most important for timeline. So yeah.
And then the timeline on paper versus how it actually looks on the day of is a little different. And thank God for like coordinate, even if somebody doesn't have a full day or a full planner, at least having a day of coordinator to like make sure things are moving. Cause I mean, a lot of the times I end up somehow filling that role. A lot of my couples don't have a coordinator, but it's in our best interest, everybody's best interest, that the day goes somewhat smoothly. So I usually step in and help with that. But it can always look a little different on paper versus like in real life. So where do you think the mix-up happens?
Yeah, I think that, and early on, I had a very different view. When I was in like year 1 and year 2, I was like, we have got to stick to this timeline. And I was that planner, like, if we're off by a minute, I'm coming for you, right? I think I've changed my view on that so much because I think we need to remember that wedding days are not just productions.
Right.
They're a day that's happening naturally. And so there's going to be a little bit of flex. Now, I do ask in one of my questionnaires to my couples, I say, how do you feel about the timeline? If something's running a little behind, if we have to push the ceremony by 5 minutes or whatever that might look like, are you okay with that? Or do you want me to keep it to the minute? And that question has really helped me to understand, like, if I have to make a decision on wedding day for my couples, I'm making the right one.
Well, and it's like me and Caitlin, for example. Yeah. She's very type A, well, I'm not going to say she's always on time, but she's pretty time punctual, and I'm very much the opposite. So, like, for me, for my wedding day, if it's late, it's late. Like, it doesn't matter to me, you know? But someone like Caitlin might be a little bit more nitpicky about it. So asking those questions and making sure that you will know what they're wanting from you.
Right. And I think that when it comes to, like, we can plan on paper for all of these things, but I can't plan for grandpa to be 20 minutes late.
Yeah.
I can't plan for him to show up to the wrong venue and now he's got a 30-minute drive. Like, those are things that, like, okay, we need to be able to make a decision in the moment. And so, yeah, I think, and then even weather, right? I think rain, the 2 biggest things that set us back on a timeline standpoint are family arrivals early, and we don't want to start without that person. And then the second being weather, because that can definitely set the ceremony back, or, if we're trying to get it into a window of sunshine.
Yeah.
So.
If I can... Go ahead.
There was a bride that we worked with, actually, and we'd gotten there, and she just wanted to cover her tattoos, which by all means, do what what you want to do on your big day. But after the makeup artist had left, it was flaky and peely and cracking, and I don't know if there wasn't a primer used. I don't know what the case of scenario was, but Caitlin was off with the groom getting the groom's pictures, and she's like almost having a full-blown meltdown with me because she doesn't know what to do. So I'm getting the makeup pads, I'm rubbing all the tattoo like makeup off, and it's turning her skin red, and I'm like, like, what do I do? And she goes, my ceremony's gonna be late. I was like, hey, no, you don't worry about that. They can be late. They can wait. This is your day, And then I kind of stepped up and I was like, comforting her and letting her know that it's okay if we run behind. And they're going to wait for you. Like, they can't do anything without you.
My signature tagline is the Princess Diaries is the queen is never late. Everyone else is simply early. Like if a bride's running behind, I tell that to them. And then usually there's some laughter.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that.
Feel a little bit better about it.
Well, the only thing worse than running late on your wedding day is freaking out and also running late on
on
your
top
wedding
of it,
day.
right?
And I had two brides actually that needed a minute. And that was something I don't usually plan for in my timelines, right? And I now when I have a bride that's slightly, maybe I know has a little bit of anxiety or, might need that, I do plan for that because I've had two that said like, hey, I know the ceremony's supposed to start in 10 minutes, but I'm feeling a little on edge and I need like 10 minutes to take a breather. And I'm like, what am I going to I'm not going to tell you
Do
no.
what you do.
Like,
It's your wedding
I would
day.
rather
Let's get out there.
push by 10 minutes and have you feel better.
Like you
Then
said, it's
go
not a
into it.
production.
Right.
It is your wedding day at
Yeah.
the end of the day.
Right.
If they've got to wait 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, they've
Yeah.
got to wait. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. And talking about pivoting, what's the biggest like pivot you've had to make on a wedding day where the couple never even found out, like they never even knew at the end?
Trying to think. Let's see.
calling someone out right now.
I know. Well, I think that there was one, but the couple knew about it. Can I start with that?
Sure.
Okay. I had, and I think every year, I'm sure you both do the same, is like you change your contract a little bit. And it's not to create more rules, but it's to protect your clients.
Yeah.
I had a ceremony. It was outside. It was 150 people. And it was a private property. We never had a policy on like you have to have 2 sets of chairs. So sometimes we were seeing like movement of chairs. So the ceremony happened. It happened within the sunshine window. That was great. But now we had to move. Our team was moving 150 chairs into the tent. It would have been fine.
Okay.
All things in a perfect world, right?
Yeah.
The cocktail hour was outside. So guests were going to be outside when we were doing the movement of chairs. They weren't really going to see this. But it was torrential downpour.
Oh no.
And like the worst I've ever seen in my entire life.
And how many people do you usually carry with you?
Well, I mean, for private properties, we have more. So we probably had like 6 people. But
Still, for
moving
150 chairs, that's a lot.
And now there wasn't really we had all of cocktail hour before. There wasn't really a timeline. Now I have 150 people in a tent because they can't be outside for the cocktail hour.
No chairs.
And now they have no chairs. And this is real bad. And now guests are
you
trying
like
to help.
soaking wet at this
I'm
point?
crying through the. You
I
can't
would've
see it
been.
because it's torrential, but I'm like
Tears.
literally. It was after that one where I was like, I think I'm shutting my business down. I don't think I'm doing this anymore.
I can't do that.
But it wasn't. We now have a policy that like you have to have 2 sets of chairs because yes, in a perfect world you could move your chairs,
But just in
you don't
case.
think about that. And if you don't
Yeah.
have a planner too, be considering those things. Like if weather happens. Is
What
that
are you
going
gonna
to
do?
totally ruin this situation? If all circumstances have to be perfect for your plan A,
You need a plan B.
you need a plan
and
B.
C and D.
Right. And you need to be in love with the plan B too. Because I find that a lot with rain plans. Couples will book a venue and they hate the rain plan. Well, if you're in New York, you should
It's like 50-50.
probably
Yeah.
really like the rain plan too.
Yeah.
So
That makes sense. Yeah, pivoting last minute is so important for any vendor because it's so unpredictable. And like you said, it's a naturally occurring day. It's not a Pinterest board. It's not an Instagram grid. Like it never goes perfectly.
Right.
Once in a great while, I have a wedding and I'm like, nothing went wrong.
Not one thing.
you're waiting for the shoe to drop.
Yeah,
I feel
seriously.
like at the end of the night,
Holding
like
your
is
breath.
everything gonna blow up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've had, we talked about it a few times. We actually had the couple in recently for an episode where there was like a wasp sting on the face, like right before
What
getting ready.
we didn't know was the day after she had to get emergency to the hospital because her whole face, she said it was like, what, a golf ball, tennis ball, like in her face.
Was it like an allergy or just?
Yeah, she didn't have her
had
EpiPen, but it didn't happen the day of the wedding.
Yeah.
Then the following day, she woke up with it swollen. And that's when her husband was like, well, to the hospital we go.
But she also didn't even know she was allergic.
Oh, she said she had her EpiPen. She didn't bring it, though. And
But I thought she said she wasn't allergic to wasps.
oh, maybe.
Yeah. And it was like a 2-day like in between. And I'm like, well, thank God. Because
What do you think about couples like leaving for their honeymoon the night of or the next day? One, because of that, but I have like other thoughts too.
So I have a personal experience with this.
Yeah.
So I really wanted to like you know, like the movies, they like just rendezvous, like they just get up. Yeah, so I wanted that situation. We left the morning after and we did a cruise. And I regret it. And I'll tell you exactly why. I'll tell you exactly why. My thought was like, I want to ride the high as long as I can. But I didn't realize I did not have a wedding planner. I did not even have a wedding coordinator. We had like a $6,000 wedding budget. Yeah, we had like we were lucky. We had like food and a DJ.
It's okay. I'll learn from your mistakes.
It's a very low budget wedding, but the honeymoon wasn't. It was like the same budget as the wedding. However, I didn't realize how much the like stress and tension of wedding planning was going to transfer beyond the wedding. And so we're on this cruise ship, nothing to do, nothing to see, just relax. And I'm like twitching. I'm like, I don't have to do anything, but I feel like, and I couldn't relax for like 3 days. Wow. So half of my honeymoon, I was just like
on edge,
having a panic attack for no reason. So that's my thing. I would wait at least 3 days. But yeah, I mean, if she had, and I told her, I was like, what if you were on your honeymoon in the middle of a cruise ship in the middle of the ocean? Like, hopefully they have.
Which, you know, there is like staff on cruises and stuff.
Yeah,
but if you're flying to Mexico, like you don't know the doctor situation. You don't know like what they do, don't have, you know, so.
For sure.
I do think too, you're just drained, like you said. Like you need a couple days to just reset because you don't want to, I've talked to a couple of my couples that like slept I don't want to sleep the first 3 days of my honeymoon. Like, I would like to enjoy.
You just had the biggest party of your life.
Right.
Like, of course you're going to be tired and drained.
Yeah.
Like, definitely, I like the thought of taking 1, 2, 3, 4 days to just, you know, before you go.
Yeah. I think another unseen thing on wedding days is like managing the family dynamic. We were talking earlier about like divorced parents and stuff like that. Tell me a little bit about like your experiences with those.
Yeah, I think that especially now when families have much more of a say because they may be contributing financially. And I've talked with other vendors about this because like when I was first starting out, I always thought like it's whatever the couple wants and nothing else. And I didn't really even listen to the opinions of others. But then another vendor was like, well, if they're cutting a check for $60,000, they have some input. And I was like, oh, it's interesting that you put it that way. I think there has to be balance, right? I think because ultimately it is your wedding day.
So you should have the ultimate say.
Right.
And I should listen to the opinions of others.
I hear a lot of couples in the beginning say something like, oh, you can talk to my mom. She has the same opinion as me. But about 3 weeks in, we realize they don't have the same opinions. They actually have very different opinions. And mom might want to do something that she did at her wedding. And that does not match anything, you know, that you want to do. So I think in the planning process, just keeping that at the forefront. But I also think people tend to bring their drama to your wedding. And I find this all the time through the showers, through the actual day itself, where a parent or a family member or a bridesmaid or someone brings their own situation into it. And now the focus is them. I think you have to be really mindful of like how you're going to keep those voices a little lower. You got to set some boundaries.
Definitely.
Because if you don't, other people will just kind of take that and run with it. You do not have to, it's not your job to fix every family situation that is going wrong. And I come from a huge Italian family, like I get it. But it's not your job to fix all of those problems. So just keeping that kind of at the forefront too.
That makes sense. And letting them just, you know, I think that sometimes you can do like a let bygones be bygones, as long as it's not like impeding on the day. Like
as long as they don't overstep that boundary that you put into place.
Yeah.
You put the boundary in place for a reason. Everybody needs to respect the boundary.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's certain things though that can just
there's some things that's like, you know, you're mad because the color of your flowers are salmon and not blush. Like, they're flowers, they're natural, they're going to be shades of different colors. So, yeah, I think there's some things where you can just kind of let it go, and there's other things where you need to definitely have your foot down.
Right.
Yeah. Right. What are couples actually paying for when they hire a planner?
Yeah, so I think first and foremost, if you have a wedding planner, it should save the couple money. And people are like, well, they're paying for you. That doesn't make sense. But oftentimes planners get discounts. If they're a little bit more established, they probably, like, we have discounts through some of our rental companies. We typically have better rates with some of the vendors, so that as well. I see a lot of couples unintentionally going over budget. And I think it's because they do not know what things cost. And so they come to me, and even sometimes this is a problem with partial, they will have already spent way too much on the venue and the food and beverage minimums. And now, okay, you have a budget or a vision for an expensive photographer, but you cannot afford that. That's going to put you way over. So I think budget is one of the biggest things. And I wouldn't say that all planners know how to separate the budget. Like if you're getting a day of coordinator, they're not helping you with your budget because they're coming in way too late to the game. We see our full services like 12 to 18 months out, and we offer a full spreadsheet that gives like the percentage you should have on your venue. I think a lot of couples miss doing their guest list in the beginning. A 150 count guest list is much different than 350 guests.
Definitely.
So that's going to set the tone for all of your other things, your food, your bar. So I think that's, a big piece of it too.
Well, and also finding venues that are more inclusive.
Right.
So I know we've worked at a venue, and we found out that venue was very, very, very well priced for everything that they offered.
Yeah.
Like they offered the chairs, the tables, the linens, the cutlery,
The
the
tear down.
caterer,
It's the whole weekend.
literally
Right.
for what, 10, 12 grand for
Right.
an entire weekend at this venue. And like, we cannot speak more highly of everybody who was there.
Oh, I love that
Like
venue so much.
they were so on top of it. When Caitlin and I had 2 seconds to go and eat, she came and brought us waters and made sure we had everything we needed. And like,
I've never seen a venue coordinator fluffing the wedding dress
she
during
helped.
portraits.
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh,
and
I
she
love that.
helped get everything situated with us,
Yeah.
so both of us could be more back in doing what we need to do.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, I think too that like leading into that as well with the chairs, I see this a lot. People will book a venue, but they have a chair from like 1920, right? And so now we have to replace all of the venue chairs. And that's a couple grand. Like if you have a certain vision in mind and that's why I say like in the beginning, before you start, make your guest list and your non-negotiables. That's going to help protect you throughout all of it. Because if we have to bring chairs in and then the venue, some venues only do one wedding a weekend. Other venues are like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. If you are replacing the chairs and your wedding's on a Saturday, that means that your rental company has to drop the chairs off Saturday morning and pick them up Saturday night. So you're probably running into like an additional $2,000 in off hours fees that you don't think about. So like all of these things that if your venue already includes, like we have a venue that includes the Louis chair, which is like a very expensive chair. Well, now the value of that venue went up because you don't have to replace the in-house chair. So keeping in mind all of those things too.
There's a lot of hidden fees too that couples aren't really aware of when they're shopping around. So they'll look at prices for things and then they'll reach out and it's like, oh, it doesn't include
The bridal suite,
all
the
of the
groomsmen
stuff.
suites.
Yeah.
Right.
There's some places that do it all individually.
And the admin fees and tax. The number of couples that forget that because okay, you look at it and you're like, oh, 22% admin fee. Great. Well, 22% on a pretty big bill, that's a couple grand that you're not accounting for. So yeah, it's really, and the tax too. I think that's important.
Yeah. Hang on. I think that's pretty much it.
This was a long episode, though.
I know,
I'm
we
proud
did
of us.
good.
We had good conversation.
I know, we're fun. We're fun people. That's why. I think that's pretty much it. Vendor relationships that make it all possible. We kind of talked about that.
Well, do you have any like tips, tricks, and advice for couples that they maybe don't know from?
Yeah,
your
I
side
think
of things?
my biggest advice has nothing to do with wedding planning. I always tell my couples, remember to date in the process. I think it does not matter whether you get to the wedding day if you hate each other in the process, right? Like,
That's a good point.
we laugh about it, but like I've had so many couples that fight on the planning calls, and you can tell they're on different pages. And I know that wedding planning can be a lot, but if you're not prioritizing like still having that time, I think they say like every 7 days you should have a date night. I don't know, you'd have to look it up, but every so many months you should have like a long weekend, and then every 7 months or something you should take a vacation. I know it's hard, right? But I think if you can try to prioritize
Your relationship
yeah,
over the
that
wedding
first. And there's a little plug for, they're not going to hire me or anything, but the Adventure Challenge books. Have you seen those?
No.
It's like a book that you buy and it's scratch off date night.
I have seen those.
And it gives you all of
and
these.
they're random and you get to go and do
They're
a random
great.
thing.
It's so fun. And me and my boyfriend use it, but it's honestly like it brings you closer because it can be so easy, especially in the planning process and with work and everything else going on in your life, to kind of get into the mundane, right? Of like, hey, how was your day? Good. How was your day? Okay, we have to pick our wedding cake. Like, you know, you have to remember to still invest in the relationship because the wedding day is an investment, but the marriage is going to be longer than that.
Well, I love that. That's really
Yeah.
good advice.
Yeah, that's great advice.
Thank you so much for coming
Thank
on.
you for having me.
We
This
had
is
such a great
exciting.
chat with you.
This coffee is great too. I have to say, like this is a very nice coffee shop.
Well, thanks so much for listening, guys. As always, if you have any comments, questions, or topic requests, drop them down below.
We'd love to feature it in the next video. Subscribe.